Alrighty. Go post that we're streaming here. Knows if anybody's here. If you're here, feel free to let me know. Oh, that's nice. I'm just hanging out waiting to see if anybody shows up. If not, we'll just paint for a little while, and if somebody happens to come, then we will talk for a bit. If not, not a big deal. This wasn't really super planned. We might be on mute here for a moment, having a slight snack while we wait to see if anybody comes, and then we'll get going, and we'll just see what happens here. If somebody pops on, then we will, I will take it off mute and we'll chat. Okay. So what we've done so far with this base dragon is just some basic sketching. Figure out where we like stuff, where we don't. At this point, what we're going to do is just start refining this. We went definitely a little too orange, so we're going to bring it back more red. We're going to do some of the lights down below on his belly down here. Get these a little better. Some of the overspray here, we're not going to worry too much about. The idea with this, something like this, is we don't want him to be super, have like a real hard edge necessarily. Where there is, so he should have some shades of that red in his belly and stuff like that. So that's perfect, to be honest with you. We'll have to make a few decisions, but nothing too crazy. So we're gonna paint this. It's gonna be a lot of dry brushing today, a little airbrushing, and then probably finish up with possibly an oil wash. I'm kind of thinking that because it needs a wash. There's a lot of cracks and crevices and stuff, and I don't really want to do the entire thing layers. That just sounds all kinds of terrible. So we're gonna do a wash, but we're gonna just start adding some depth to our depth dragon. I don't think it's gonna be terribly a lot of work to get to where we want, but I think step number one is probably going to be bringing back in some of those some of the red that we lost, probably in the crevices. So we're gonna bust out the airbrush, do that. This is a great use for some sort of transparent paint, or semi-transparent. Oh, sorry, excuse me. AK Interactive makes a clear red that works. Oh, that's an orange. Where's my red? There's my red. There's a transparent red Pro Acryl that works fine. Or then I actually really like using the contrast paints through an airbrush. Somebody's like, whoa, you got a contrast paint in a dropper? Nope, I just moved it to a dropper and put the label back on. So the nice thing is you don't really need to thin them very much. And then what we're going to try to do is focus on being a little precise here, which means I might actually use my other gun here. How precise do I want to be? This should work fine. Just a second. Okay, so we're going to be using this airbrush. This is a Hansa 281. It's a different kind of airbrush, but it's meant for precision work. And the nice thing is it's very difficult to get splatter with it, which is what I don't want. I don't want to. Oh, geez. Oh, I dropped that. I opened that up and a blob of paint dropped right on there. That's no good. Okay. This is why you should not try to do everything with stuff in your hands, huh? So we're just going to put some of this in there. And then what we're going to try to do is just focus mainly on hitting down in some of the crevices and stuff like that. We'll see how well this works. Might be a little high on air pressure there. Alright, I'm about 15 PSI, which I'm hoping will be less splatter. The nice thing about these transparents is it's much easier to do kind of the grade. You always want to make sure you're aiming down in the crevices here, okay? If you try to do it some other way, you're going to end up with a lot of overspray and just colors generally where you don't want them. So we're just coming in here. Just kind of adding some of our red tones back. Right? So now it looks a lot more red. This was Guillemot Flesh. And we will do some of this by hand to kind of hit a few places in a bit. This is really a model where you can make your life a lot easier with an airbrush and some transparent paint. I gotta tell you, like, if you're not using transparent paint, you're really making your life a lot harder than it has to be. The idea with transparent paint is that it's going to allow you to get a much easier gradation on things. Okay. So we're just going through and we're just reinforcing all these colors. You can see that we've definitely got a lot more red to it than we had starting off. It no longer, that top part looks, compare this to this. We definitely have a lot more red. But we're still trying to keep some of that orange as our highlight. Like I said, some of this is going to happen when we do our oil wash. So I'm not having to be like super. The only thing bad about going at low pressure, you're inevitably going to clog more often. I normally go at a much higher pressure, but nature of the beast on doing something like this. When you clog, if you back your needle out and put it back in, it'll usually unclog. You can also, I'm going to turn my pressure up just a little bit. Hey Sam. So we're just working on Mr. Dragon here. Just airbrushing in some of the reds. Bringing back in some of the red. We went a little too orange. focusing really on where some of the scales meet. Not really the tips of the scales. See, we're just trying to bring him a little more red. Plus, it provides some great depth to the dragon. After we do some of this, going to be a fair amount of dry brushing. Just adding in depth. We don't have to be super careful with a lot of this because a lot of this is going to end up coming from the wash that we end up doing, the dry brushing that's coming. So what we're doing right now is, you know, this is going to take what, 10-15 minutes. We did this different colors on this side. We're going to go ahead and make this color because it's easier to match this here, or at least some semblance of this, than the other way around at this point. All right. Don't think it's a big crowd tonight. That's okay. This was kind of a unexpected one. This is a project been on my list for a while, and ever since the giveaway, and just needs to finish up. Don't know. Oh lordy, I ended up with this all over. Oh man, look at that. I got that all over there and didn't even notice. So we're gonna try to take some water and get what we can off here. I did not even see that. That's a bummer. Oh, looks like we're taking off some other stuff with it. It's okay, we'll touch that up here in a moment. Not a big deal. Not at this stage. Alright, so, you know, he's still got orange, but he's definitely a little more towards the red than he was, which is good. What we're going to do now is let's go ahead and let's do some of the highlights on the red. You know what? Let's do yellow. And we're just going to dry brush this. This might bring out the orange a little bit more, but that's okay. We're going to bring a lot of this back when we end up where's my biggest one? My biggest one? Okay. Okay. We're gonna end up bringing a lot of this back when we do the oil wash, so it's not a big deal if we end up pretty orange. It'll just make it more complex. That's where it was. There was some of this that spilled over here. That stinks. I was wondering how in the world it got there. These are rosemary smush brushes, the makeup brushes. All these brushes right here work really well for dry brushing. So when we dry brush, we get most of it off, and then we just want to kind of just trying to catch some of the edges here. I think I'm going to need way more yellow than I got. This should not be drastic, but it shouldn't be so subtle that you can't see it. If you boo-boo and you make it a little too drastic, don't worry. It's just paint. See? We're just trying to isolate some of the scales now. What we really want to do is get these edges here. Make sure that most of these edges really have some sort of a yellow to them. A fat red dragon. It is indeed a fat red dragon. You know, Tom, I printed off your dragon on FDM, but I think I'm gonna reprint it resin. I know you're not a resin fan, and you may consider that sacrilege, but I think it's just it's probably my single favorite dragon sculpt, and even other people that have seen it are like, yeah, that's a dragon. And I think it will just end up kind of a centerpiece if I end up doing it in resin. And so right now we're just catching edges. So nice thing about yellow is that it's so transparent that it's hard to go too horribly wrong with it. If you do, shouldn't be too hard to fix. Just red is also transparent, so it's easy to kind of go back the other direction on and still have most of your blends kind of be intact. We're just, these makeup brushes are just absolutely the stuff for dry brushing. Like if you're not using, honestly, there are times where if I need some sort of blend, my choices are like makeup brush or airbrush, and I'll just grab a makeup brush. I remember somebody was doing this multi-blend. Sorry, I realized I was off screen. Somebody was doing one of these big, it was a, what was it? It was a beholder, and somebody was trying to blend between two very drastic colors. And he's like, you know, how do you do that? And I was like, well, you airbrush it. And if you don't have an airbrush, about the only method I could see is using a makeup brush and kind of stipple between the colors. It turned out really well. So that's kind of my go-to method for a lot of things these days. Like if I can get a makeup brush on it, it's probably gonna have a makeup brush somewhere. You see, sometimes if I feel like I've got a little too much, I'll just take my finger and kind of wipe it off a little bit. Tom has a fat dragon there in the chat. He's got a great Kickstarter that just kicked off. All his Kickstarters, though, are amazing. Like, he puts out some of the best 3D printed stuff ever. Like, it's just, everything's so well tested, easy to use. And they really make me think of very classic designs. You know, like I feel like when you think of like classic fantasy, classic Dungeons and Dragons, classic, you know, of scenes and stuff, this is what we're thinking of. I think that's looking pretty good so far. I got no major complaints. It's really going to look poppin' when we get a lot of the details on it. That aren't just scales done. And you know, when we do some of the underbelly stuff, the teeth, the that's a bit much. And then the oil wash is just really, really gonna pop. All we're doing here is making sure, basically, that we get the edges of things with our makeup brush, because it just really helps define things. When you see those clear edges and everything, just really helps things pop. And it's just, you know, what have we been doing this 10-15 minutes, maybe something like that, maybe longer. I don't know, I haven't really been paying attention, but not long, especially for something of this size. So you know, a lot of people are like, well, obviously you would dry brush that. Yeah, but you know, there's a lot of people who won't, or if you dry brush it, you won't. You need to go fairly stark with your dry brushing. Don't be subtle with your dry brushing, especially if you're going to do what we do. What I'm going to do afterwards, which is add an oil wash on top of this. And the oil wash is going to darken a lot of things up. And when we make it go dark like that, we got to make sure that we have kind of overcorrected before we do that. Because what we really want is it to come out looking right after the wash, and us not have to go back in and try to do too much with it. Okay, we're getting close here on this. Yeah, that's really popping, right? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and clean this brush. The important thing with dry brushing is that you don't clean your brush very often. Once it kind of goes in water, it's dead until it dries out, so to speak. So, yep. Kind of gotta have a bunch of different brushes if you're gonna do it with dry brushing. I use that for a long time, so what we're gonna do real quick is I'm gonna take a little bit of acetone, just clean it out with some acetone, because I really like this makeup brush and it's lasted a long time. I just got some acetone in there. Thanks, Greg. It's coming to you. I promise it'll get there. So with everything going on, it's been a thing. Alrighty. So clean that brush out. We're going to set that one to the side. Then we're going to come in and we're going to do some of this underbelly here. Yeah, I think we're going to do that next. And all we're going to do here is just take some ivory, and then we probably will take it up to a white. I'm not 100% sure, because when we do the wash on it, it's going to bring it pretty far down. And so we want to make sure that we've got it way higher than it needs to go. We're probably going to do some bright white highlights on a few places on the top before we do it as well. So what we got is we got another, this is just a makeup brush. We're going to use, I like this one just a little bit better. This is a Rosemary Smush brush. And I've just got some ivory on the palette. And then we're just going to start picking out all this texture down here. This is just not a model that you really want to do too much by hand. Like, the whole model just really lends itself well to airbrushing and dry brushing, especially being a depth dragon. You know, we're gonna dirty it up some a little bit. You know, give it some dirt and some you know, he's been around doing his dragon thing. So it's not like, oops, sorry, I'm off camera. So if you get some things where you kind of don't think they should be, it's not really a big deal. And he's on this big perch too, this big rock. So a lot of this underside isn't gonna be super visible to begin with. It's definitely there. Okay. Yeah, so you can see bringing these tones back in. This part up here where we had our boo-boo earlier, that's the real problem right now. What we're gonna do is we're gonna take another one of these, and we're gonna take some of this. This is golden brown, and we're gonna try to blend that back in real quick. Doesn't have to be perfect because of everything else we're doing. Yeah, see, I'm just taking this, and we're just hitting these. We just want it to not be stark. And we're just, this looks like it's just a shade brighter. That's okay. We're going to blend in a little bit of these that we got a little bit of overspray on here. These are a little too red. That's okay. Like I said before, we want them to have kind of a red tinge. I don't like it when there's not color anywhere else on the dragon. Like if he's red and we don't see red anywhere else. Like, I feel like a red dragon should have kind of shades of red all over, you know. So I like the overspray look. I think it ties him in thematically better, while we still have some kind of distinct areas on the dragon, which is what we want. See, we're getting there. Okay, so now we're gonna come back. We're gonna go ahead. That was our cleanup brush. We're gonna come back to our ivory and keep going with that. And then I think we're gonna put a little bit of ivory up on the top on some highlights. The other nice thing about doing dry brushing, because this is a model, there's not really a good way to mount on anything to paint. It's a good method for that, because otherwise, you know, how do we hold this thing if I was using something where I really have to let layers dry? Like, I legitimately don't know how I would do that. So, I don't know. But luckily, we don't have to. Man, can you imagine being like a gamer on a table though? Like, this gets pulled out, like, I'd be like, well, that was nice knowing y'all. Like, so sorry. I'm just gonna go ahead and start rolling new character here, because I don't think this guy's gonna make it. Okay. Okay. What we're gonna do, we're gonna take a little bit of our ivory here. We're gonna hit some of the tops of these up here. Not all of them. Just where we really want to catch. Maybe kind of down the ridge, center ridge here. I'll draw our focus there, huh? So we're just adding visual interest here, guys. We're just... Alright, so at this point, I'm feeling pretty good about a lot of it. What we want to do is start picking out some of the non-scales. So mainly teeth, bones, mouth, stuff like that. Let's go ahead and clean up these brushes. Wait, that got really crusty fast. Use a little bit of our acetone again. Acetone on synthetic brushes, I'm not using it on this. This is a natural hard brush and it's already clean. But on your makeup brushes, the acetone does really nice. It just cleans it like instantly and gets it back to pretty much new in a few seconds. There you go. That was like new. And then we'll just wipe that out. I always keep just whenever I'm going to be doing a lot of dry brushing and stuff like that. Acetone, nail polish remover. Just be careful if you get it on anything else. It will just instantly strip all of the fun off of your models. All of the paint off of your models. Okie dokie. Let's do all of our... I think logically the next thing to do is probably the mouth. So we're going to do the inside of the mouth, kind of this pink color, right? Along with, so basically his gums, his thing. And then what we'll do is we will wash and highlight and everything. And it'll end up being a lot darker than that. But this is kind of a good starting point for this. The first time I used kind of this pink color, I was like, I don't know if this is a good idea, y'all. And after I kind of decided the route that I wanted to go with it, like I just feel like it looks really nice and realistic, and I like the look that it gives a lot overall. So it's like a pink color with a red and purple wash, and then some highlights, and I don't use a whole lot of washes in general, but there's just certain models that you're gonna need to. This is one of them. Like, if you wanted to do this model without any kind of washes and just no washes, no dry brushing, just all traditional layering, it would probably take you legitimately, gosh, I don't know, 100 hours, maybe more. Just 1 second, y'all. Oh, I was not painting on camera. Sorry about that. Sometimes I forget exactly what I'm doing because I get so used to just painting. Somebody sent me a message saying, by the way, you're not on camera. I'm like, oh, snap. Let's move this a little bit more like this. All I was doing was just putting down base coat of this pink here. This is a pink from Monument. So this is Pro Curl Pink. I like it because it's got good coverage and we're going over dark color. So we're going to want to not have to do 27 coats. But we're probably going to need 2. Reaper Breast Cancer Pink also works really well. You know what? We missed something down here on our dry brush earlier. Let's grab that. And unfortunately, I think that's one of the things that will show this particular place right here. There's not really a great angle to get at that. Just getting down here on his leg. Did I miss anywhere else? I don't think so. Like I said, a lot of this isn't going to be super visible. Give that a clean up. Whilst we're waiting, we need to wait for that pink to be good and dry. What kind of eye do we want? Trying to think, what's a dragon eye look like? I've had this rough thing in my head, but I'm not really sure. Anyways, so yeah. Okie dokie. Waiting for this pink to dry. Sorry, got distracted. Okay. Let me think. Sorry. All right. I think this pink is just about dry enough. Let's go to the next spot. Oops, sorry. Make sure I'm back on camera. And we're just putting another coat on here. And then what we'll do is, as soon as this is dry, we're going to throw some wash on it and let it start drying while we figure out our dragon's eye and anything else. You know, there's certain areas like the inside top of the mouth where you really don't have to be super concerned when we go to highlight and stuff like that. Nobody's going to be picking you apart for that. We don't want to not have anything there. Okay, so that's done. Let's go ahead and make his eyes. They're going to end up being some sort of like fiery, like thinking like a Sauron kind of thing. And for that effect, we need them to start out pretty bright. We can't really work from a dark base coat like that. Eyes might be something that we do very last because I really hadn't thought about what I want to do with them. All I'm doing is just putting down a base coat on the eye so that we have choices. Right? See, we're getting there. Stuff is happening. Okay. We're gonna go ahead and start putting down some of our bone colors on all the claws and stuff like that. The first thing we're gonna do is just a light umber. It's just a brown color. And we're just giving them a base coat. And then the nice thing about many bone things is that they take well. I was off camera again. Is that they take well to dry brushing, which, as you learned earlier, is one of my favorite techniques. So We don't really have to do too much with the underside of these feet because they're perched on a rock and you literally can't see them. There's no advantage to really doing anything with the underside of the feet. So always pay attention to the things you just don't have to paint, so you don't have to worry about them. If you're mounting it on something else, if you're doing something like that. Okay, so we got those. Come down here, we'll get these. I don't know what I want to do with that webbing yet. I haven't decided. Just painting toes here. Sorry. Sometimes I have to twist at angles that is not conducive for camera work, but it's kind of what you have to paint. Just painting claws here. Yeah, I'm liking it. I think overall he's looking pretty badass. Just giving the teeth here a coat. Nice thing about this Pro Acryl is that it covers so well. Oftentimes you can get away with just one coat on something, and honestly that just makes your life so much easier. Like, yeah, because if you don't have to put 2 thin coats on everything, I'm gonna tell you what, don't. Like, if you don't need it, don't do it. Alright, I'm just getting these teeth. The that pink before we do the wash has to be really good and dry. If you're ever painting and you try to do a wash before your coat is really good and dry, it's not going to go well. It will run all over the place. It will make you quite angry. Alrighty. We're getting there, guys. Okay. Alright, I think that pink is good. What we're going to use, I think, for our wash for this, we're going to use Army Painter Purple Tone. I really like the Army Painter Purple Tone wash. It really pops on a lot of things, and it's going to help us bring out, we're going to thin it down literally just a little bit, like just a few drops of water. It really helps bring out a lot of interesting tones and stuff. So what we're going to do, we're going to get this all over this mouth. We're going to let it dry. Then we're going to come back in more selectively with some of our red tones. Think of this as like a deepest shadow. Okay. And then we're going to come back afterwards and we're going to bring some more red to it. So the reason that I'm doing it like this is otherwise painting red in general is a challenge. It's actually a lot easier when you're doing things that are red or some shade of red or whatever, to start higher and then work lower rather than the traditional of starting low and working high. Okay, so what we're going to do after this is kind of take some transparent red and kind of add shades of red into this, so that we can do that without needing to try to highlight up red, which is much more difficult, as we kind of saw going this direction. So, because we ended up orange, and orange is good. Like I could take this more red, and it's gonna go a little bit more red with our wash, but I like this look, the shade, so I'm not super worried about trying to make it be more red because I like what we've got here. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our bone, and we are going to start working on some of those colors. So we're gonna take this was our bone color. We're gonna mix a little bit of the ivory into that. There we go. And we're just gonna start dry brushing the thing. We're just getting the texture out of it. I'm gonna need a lot more. I can go a little lighter. I'm gonna need more ivory. This is a fairly small dry brush, and I'm using it because I want a little more control right now, because we have so much that's already done, airbrushed, stuff like that, that I really don't want to hit something that I don't mean to hit right now. That would be all kinds of horrible. So see, we're starting to get some of that. We'll be doing another highlight or two up on all the bone stuff, but basically that's the process. Okay, just working around to all the claws, all the different teeth in a moment. The nice thing on a model like this model has a lot of texture, and that's one of the reasons that dry brushing just works so well for it, is because it has so much texture. It just brings out all that texture. Okay, if these were like totally flat, untextured scales, we would really need to do a lot more to them to have them look even semi-interesting. I would probably still use a very similar technique with the makeup brushes, just because, you know, I'm that kind of crazy guy. But we don't have to worry too much about getting really nice blends and stuff like that. It's just gonna, a lot of the work kind of is done for us by the texture. If you saw the Cthulhu model I did recently, is the same kind of thing. There was so much texture on that model that a lot of the hard work was done there by the sculptor for me already. Alright, so we've got all the claws. Let's hit some of the teeth. So we don't have as much texture on the teeth. There's some. What we're probably going to do on the teeth is need to come back with a bit of a wash along the gum line to help it get a little more visual interest. Getting there. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to go up a step significantly brighter then. And this will be basically our highlight on these. whenever you're highlighting and you're going brighter, the important thing is don't redo everything you did. Like, don't cover all the same areas, because you're covering up your work. So what you need to do is a smaller area. Your highlights should get smaller and smaller. I do not like that. We will be correcting some of that. And that's what a lot of my painting style is I sketch things in and I'm a little rough, and then I refine and I fix and whatever. But it allows me to do a few things. I'm a fairly fast painter by most people's standards. And then what it allows me to do is figure out where I need to be spending my time. Like, I don't need to spend a lot of time on some things because there's just not a lot of value for it. Other things, there's a lot of value in spending times. You know, the face is almost always an area to spend a good amount of time on a mini. The feet, not so much. All right, we're going to take some straight ivory now, just on his teeth, because we want these to be fairly bright. There we go. Okay, our wash is not yet dry yet. Here's what we'll do then. I will show you what to do along the gum lines here. What we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to make a little bit of, let's do this, let's add some of this purple in here to darken it up. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got a real thin kind of wash. Is it dark enough? Nope, it's not dark enough. Alright, we're going to need to go darker. What do we got here? Mahogany. I'm looking for colors here. Let's go dark umber. Oh, you know what? This is a great use case for this Guillemot flesh that we had out earlier. It's a little red. That's great, but it's also dark. This is going to tie back in some of these, and all we're doing, we're just hitting right along where the teeth meet the gums. Here's the important thing though. You need to try to drag not up towards the tooth. Drag down into the gums. Yeah, so that just helped create some more visual interest there. We're gonna go ahead and it's not quite dry. I just really don't want to mess up those gums any more than I have to. So I guess we're gonna wait for that to dry. You know what we can do? We're gonna take some of this purple wash here, and we're gonna run it. I'll make sure. There we go. See how that darkened that inside of that socket? So that gave us a nice dark line inside of that socket. It's gonna make the eye pop a lot more. Tinted the eyeball a little purple, not a big deal. Because we can just come back over that whenever we decide what we're going to do. But see, now the eyes are going to have that dark ring, which really helps them pop, right? You know, if we wanted to, we could put some purple some other places. Let's go ahead. Let's fix, I don't like this yellow right there. What's the best way to fix that? Probably with a bit of orange. Throw down just a bit of orange. And we're going to take a brush, and what we're going to do is we're going to, and I got some down there too that I don't like. What we're going to do is we're just going to stipple over any places, and it may take a time or two. Any places that we just really don't like. They're too harsh, they're too something. You know, just... There we go. Let's bring some of this orange a few other places. Okay. Okay. Like I said, I'm not sure what we're going to do on the eyeball. I did not look that up, and I really should have. So what we really need to do now is address the gums and all that. Let's take... What do we got here? Let's take some of this transparent red, and let's mess with that. This is Procryl Transparent Red. Alright, notice I haven't used good brushes at all. I think I'm finally going to take out a decent brush for this, because I do want some level of control here. I don't want it to just be willy-nilly. This Transparent Red by Procryl is really strong. It's very pigmented stuff. So we're really going to need to be careful with it. What we're going to do, we're going to put it on like that. And then we're just going to feather out some of the edges here. That went a little bit pink, but that's okay. Went a little bit violet, I guess. Okay. All we're doing here is bringing down some of this. So I'm dabbing it on there, cleaning my brush off, and then kind of just messing with the edges of it. So that it we start to get some of the red. But we've still got some of the pink in there too. So I just put some back down in here. I'm just playing with this till we get a good mouth that we want. Alright. We're going to take some of this pink that we were messing with, mix it with some of the ivory. Get a nice light pink. And just real carefully. That's a little too harsh. Some edges here are going to help this thing look wet. If it looks a little... See that mouth? See, those highlights really help sell that. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to take that. Just catching the edges of some of these ridges here. Okay. Alrighty. Now that mouth is looking a lot better. And come in with just a lot closer to even stronger white. Oop. These will just be little glinted spots. This is just another highlight here. Just gonna help sell it a little bit. If we don't like it, it's just paint. We can always come back and do it, but overall I think it works. He's got a very dark ridge down the center of his tongue, but I think it works because it really draws your eye. Let's go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and touch up the eyeball so that when we mess with it next time, it's ready to go. Should have a fairly dark ring around it, along with a nice light base. This light colored base is going to allow us to use really bright colors and have them really pop. If you start with a darker base, you try to put some yellows and stuff like that over it, they're just not going to pop. And we're probably going to put some fluorescence there and stuff like that. The only thing that I'd say is that I think I want the teeth a little bit brighter, so we're going to take our brush here and we're just going to run a few strokes here. Just catching tips and stuff like that. Just painting the inside of the teeth here. Okay. Okay. Alrighty, guys. So that's part of it. Alright, I think what we're ready for at this point, I think we're going to tackle the oil wash now. And then we'll let that dry. We'll come back. We'll see how that looks next time. And we'll do the eye. And I'm just not sure what I want to do. Thanks, Ray. Okay. Oil wash time. Alright. If you've never done an oil wash, super easy, but you do need a few things. Luckily, none of them are expensive at all. They're all like stupid cheap. Sorry, there's something in this container that I was about to make a wash in. Alright, so basically an oil wash is just oil paint. There we go. I think dried glue or something in there. Is oil paint and mineral spirits, and it's just thinned way down. That's about it. And then having some sort of big brush to apply them with. I think hopefully this one will work. This is Alright, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off. We're gonna make a really dark red. So we're gonna just take this as Winton oils, Winsor Newton Winton. It's not gonna take very much paint. We're gonna make a dark red. So we're gonna do this with just a little bit, and I do mean a little bit of black because a little goes a long way on black, especially with oils. Probably that much black. That might be too much. No, I think that's about right. So we're looking for maybe a little bit more. Yeah, so we're looking for kind of a crimson hue there. And then after we do this all over this area, we're gonna need to, hopefully that's enough. After we do it all over this area, sorry, this is Mona Lisa paint thinner, odorless paint thinner. It's my favorite. Then we add some of that in there, and then we'll see if how we are on the ratio. And we're just mixing this guy up. Make sure you get it totally mixed up. Okay. In my experience, This wash doesn't save well when it's this thin, unless it's in maybe a really good container, but I haven't seen one. They just tend to do weird things. I know you can. James Wapple stores a lot of his colors thinned down, so you can thin them down. We'll just have to see. So the advantage of an oil wash is that it takes a really long time to dry, so it's going to give us a lot of flavor. So that's kind of the consistency we want. We test it on a paper towel, we dab it, it should spread. We might want it just a little bit thinner. That's still pretty concentrated. Okay. We can always add more paint, we can always add more thinner. Yeah, it's spreading just a little bit better. We'll go ahead and we'll run with that. And then what we do, really honestly, is we kind of spread this all over, and then we're going to come back and kind of take it off of what we don't want it on. Okay, so you can see it just really soaks all over. If you don't want as much tintage to it, if you don't want it to tint something as much, and you really just want it down in those crevices, what you want to do is, so you can see, look at that compared to the rest of the model. Isn't that crazy? What you can do is cover it in a gloss coat first, and it's really going to only hit, it's going to flow down into those crevices then. You'll have a lot more control over it. It'll just like, you'll be like, holy crap, that's magic, and it really can be. So we're just putting this everywhere we've got some red. We do want to try to avoid the white spots at this point. And then what we're going to do after it dries for a moment is we're going to come back with a little sponge or something. Kind of soak it off some of our high points. Okay, so that way we get, oh, we missed a claw back there. We'll have to tackle that next time at this point. Okay, we're good here. Start working up here. Given the amount of spirits that I used, you might be able to tackle this in a couple of hours. Really, you need to give it a day. The nice thing here is this is a really cheap method of putting out a large amount of wash. Otherwise, you know, these Games Workshop washes, man, some of those are pretty pricey, guys. You can see we definitely went back into red territory, which is really what I was thinking was going to happen, which is good. What I wanted was a red dragon. So you can see, here's where we started before the wash. This is after the wash. So yeah, you can see the wash is really doing a lot here. Ah, crap, I just got it all down in here. But that's okay. We will be putting a dark wash on there anyways, so a lot of that will cover it up. We just don't want it to tint too much. If you need more control when you're using a wash like this, just dab some of it off first. Okay, that's basically one side done. Tell me that doesn't look bad though. Doesn't that look pretty sweet? Oh, we had a lot leak over to this side. I did not think about that. Okay, all we're gonna do, we're just gonna see how easy that just pats off. Not a problem at all. Not a problem. Like I said, we want some of the color to bleed through, because it just wouldn't be natural with it being super stark. And a lot of that is going to get taken care of when we put the wash on its side. If we've got to come back over after this wash dries and kind of re-dry brush some of the white, that's not a big deal. It's worth it to get this great color that we're getting out of this wash. But oil washing is a really fun, super easy technique that really can make a model pop. Alrighty, I think at this point we've oil washed about everything with the red. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna let that dry. Which I think I'm patting the tops. It's gonna pick up just a little bit here. You can see it. Just so that we preserve a little bit of these highlights more. And then we come down here. A lot of this is going to be under, so it's not a big deal. All right, and then we're going to call it there. We're going to end it. Missed the right side of the head. You know what? I think you're right. I surely did. Thank you very much. I am bad about doing that sometimes. All right, so after I do this, what we're going to do next time is we'll see the oil wash dry. Well, we're going to use some of this red. I think I like it a lot. I think I like it down in here. There we go, yeah. Alright, so what we're going to do, we're going to let this dry. The next time we'll come back, we'll touch up any of the bottom that we need to touch up. We'll do dark wash down there. Do I use... whilst we're talking, we'll get a nice picture. Do I use oil wash on smaller models? Sometimes you can. I don't find it super effective for small washes. It's easier to use an acrylic wash, but you certainly can. If you watch James Wapple, he uses oils in general on a lot of stuff, and you can do something similar there. So I just find it easier usually to do a acrylic wash on smaller models. Any other questions, comments? You just don't, one of the nice things is you just don't really get any kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Crap. You don't get any staining or whatever with oil washes, which is really nice. And you can see how easily it went down. And it brought our tone way back closer to what we wanted, which was nice. And then we'll probably do a few highlights and stuff like that next time. You know, anytime you do a wash, it's going to bring it back down. Yeah, and then, so what we'll do next time is we'll come back, we'll wash the underside. It'll be kind of a dark brown wash. You know what? I'm probably going to do that off camera just so that it has a time to dry. It's the exact same thing we did, only with a dark brown. And then some of the model, yeah, it was airbrush and dry brush and a little bit of other stuff. So we will, yeah, we'll come back in and we'll just retouch some stuff up and we'll, yeah. So I think we should be able to finish next time. And yeah. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, any more questions, comments? Alrighty. Alright, everybody. Have a good